I am married, and I have children and a happy home and lots of very good friends. Van Gogh had none of these things. I like people, and people are good to me. They weren't to him. And though I'm an actor by profession, I paint for fun, and I waste a lot of time writing and reading and listening to music. He wasted no time on anything. Whatever he did was work. There's no one less like Van Gogh than I am. But I can't think of anyone more worth trying to understand. All I must do is let Van Gogh happen to me. I want to look at Holland before I start. He was born here. He lived here on and off for 32 years. His father, a country minister, used to wonder why Vincent had to be so eccentric. The people always stare at him. Nobody found him easy. Everything he does, thinks, feels, his very way of living is different. Not an attractive boy with those small, narrowed, peering eyes. When you see him, you pity him. He lived apart. He studied. He looked everywhere for a vocation. As teacher, bookseller, art dealer, he failed. He chose the wrong women. He quarreled with the right people. He preferred whores and peasants. And all he wanted was to serve mankind. So much has to be changed. I don't want to live within the system. He went his own way. At 25, he was off to the Belgian coal mines as a preacher. He gave his food, his clothes, to the miners. Everyone thinks me mad, he said, for wanting to be a true Christian. He was dismissed for too much self-sacrifice and too few decent clothes. At 27, he began drawing. He lived in one room in this house. He went his own way. He did 6 years of painting, which nobody liked, and then joined Theo in Paris. Theo, his brother and only friend. He argued with Degas, Toulouse-Lautrec, Pissarro, Gauguin. Then he said, "An adventurer like me loses nothing by risking more. I want a different light, a stronger sun." He went his own way. In early 1888, 30 months before dying, he arrived in southern France. This seems to me the moment when Vincent's life really began. He was 35 and quite alone. Even Theo said, "I wish he would live by himself." It's the moment for me to join him. As a city, Arles quite misses its effect in every way, said Henry James. And if it is a charming place, as I think it is, I can hardly tell the reason why. A hole, Stendhal called it. So far as civilization goes, this is a sad place, said Prosper Mérimée. The people stare at us like savages, wrote the Earl of Malmesbury. And Vincent's feelings. Perhaps Arles may disappoint you, he wrote to Theo, but just wait. Only in the long run does the poetry work on you. As usual, Vincent hit the mark. The poetry works on you. The whole point is that any words I use as Van Gogh don't have to be invented. There's nothing to say about him that he didn't say about himself. It's all in the last letters to his brother Theo, just as the sort of subjects he painted are still here in the city.
Van Gogh stayed in Arles about a year, nearly 15 months. He painted here 200 pictures. Now we're going to see where he painted them. Van Gogh est arrivé en février 1890 et il a peint environ 200 toiles dans la ville de. Now this is the place where Van Gogh lived, but unfortunately the whole house was destroyed during the war. Van Gogh wanted to start a painters' community in the south. Gauguin did come and stayed with him for 2 months, but all ended in disaster. Van Gogh used to come here in the arenas not to paint the monument, but to see faces, to see people, because he lacked friendship. And all his life he wanted to make friends.
This special torture, loneliness, he said, which a painter has to bear. The only way for me, an actor, to understand that loneliness, being the man I am, is to try to live that way, and perhaps ask other artists I know about it. But for the moment, it's better to be on my own. Here, in this ring, he must have watched the toreador being awarded the bull's ear after a good fight. Some people say that's why Vincent later cut off the lobe of his ear and gave it to a girl. This loneliness, he said, this feeling of being an outcast, is a small sorrow, especially if the country excites you and is beautiful. A painter should live like a workman, he said, hammer out his products like a blacksmith, with the same patience, the same fidelity. True or not? I'm not sure yet. But to get inside another man, you have to first feel that the outside is right, and you look like him. An actor should live like a workman. Do not use if redness or irritation result. Rubber gloves are recommended. Eyes, ears, or mouth must be instantly washed in cold water if touched. The product is dangerous for children and animals. God, it's gone all black. Beard. Christ. Oh, it's rather good. It really is not bad. It's really not bad. I'm in my 50s. What he said was, I'm a man in the 30s, with the lines and wrinkles of a man in his 40s. Vincent the Dutchman, they called him. Sunburnt, they said, weather-beaten, small, narrow, peering eyes, not attractive, badly cut, stubbly red beard, gloomy, nervous, fanatic. Yes, and much finer eyebrows. An incorrigible smoker. Ate hardly a thing. Drank too much. As for clothes, said he always tried to be taken for a working man. I simply can't see him shopping. What did he say? I feel uneasy in good clothes. It seems to me an ugly face and a shabby outfit are all I need to harmonize with everything around me.
Ah ouais.
Things he said stick in the mind, keep coming back. I just want to live with vigor, without restraint, as innocently as a child. No, not child, artist, I repeat, as innocently as an artist. An actor can look like him, dress as he did, but be like him, look at things his way. What is the force behind a man like this? A man forever stopping and staring at things. The emotions that seize me when I look at nature, he said, sometimes make me almost faint. I haven't managed a cypress yet, not the way I feel it. I compare the color in a picture to the delight in being alive. Make sure you always half shut your eyes when at work in the open air. People say I'm mad when they see me shambling through the countryside, stopping and screwing up my eyes, putting up my hands to shut things out. But what the hell do I care? I go my own way. What is real painting? Where the result is more beautiful than any precise imitation of the thing painted. Concentrating on one object, then letting everything around it belong to it and live through it. No good following nature, it all goes wrong. Just create from one's own colors, and nature falls in line. At the moment, it's beginning to take shape, he said. But I'm frightened of spoiling it. On the other hand, if I'm frightened, I'll never succeed. Vincent said all these marvelous things. But do I know what art is? Or exactly what an artist goes through to be true to himself? As I go deeper into Vincent, and perhaps become him, and because he seems to me such a modern man, I keep wanting to compare what he felt with what artists feel now. I want to involve the artists who work down here now in my own efforts to recreate this man. But not yet. Not until I'm closer to Vincent on my own terms. Then I can ask them. As an actor, as the sower Vincent often painted, I plant these seeds. They will grow into a field of sunflowers. I go through the motions. I repeat to myself with all my heart what Vincent said. But even he, perhaps, never crystallized what I'm after. Only an artist now, at the moment of working, knows what creation is.
The more you work, the better you work, and it all feeds into itself. Beginning something is always very difficult because you feel all sorts of panics about it, so you don't start it. But once you've got one piece of work going, it really gives you the courage to go on with other ones, and they all relate and spring off each other. I think it's that the language is so much about something that's going on in your head that for me is totally separated from speech. And it is a language, and indeed that's really what an artist is looking for, some kind of language. I don't think you ever, perhaps ever believe you've found the language. I think you just go on pushing it. I think after a batch of work, there's a sort of sense of disappointment and anticlimax, always. You know, what you do is always so much less than what you believe, which is why you in the end go back again. You know, it's like people having children, they always want another one that's going to be even better.
Dear brother, I go to visit a girl every so often. I have the crude desires of an animal, and anyway, by being with women, I learn about art. I don't want to make love to you. I just want to be with you, with anyone who'll listen. Once, years ago, I had someone like you to comfort me in my own country. A woman, ugly they said, but beautiful. She had one child and was pregnant with another. It's better to have children than paint pictures. Loving art gets in the way of loving people. And only loving people is real. And I had no money, which is no surprise. I never do have. It all goes on paints. And I really believed that I could be understood without all these words. Oh, perhaps I do myself more harm than good when I speak. But surely, if a man is trying to put thoughts into the world instead of children, he belongs to humanity just as much as a child. Dying is hard, but living is even harder. Why did I lunch off some beer and a bit of dry bread? Because Dickens says it's good for people on the verge of suicide. It puts them off it. I wouldn't hurt a soul. Before I do anything, I ask myself, would this hurt someone? Mad, aren't I? But then the doctors say that Moses was mad, and Muhammad, and Jesus, and Luther, and Bunyan, and for that matter, Frans Hals, Rembrandt, Delacroix. To say nothing of the harmless, limited old ladies like my mother. Who's sane then? I haven't got the faith for it, but I could make a remarkable lunatic. Now I'm a trivial one. I'm an artist. It's a very marvelous thing to look at something very closely and realize it's beautiful, and to think it over and keep it inside me, and then say, I'm going to draw it. Dear brother, one day I walked to Tarascon, but alas, the sun was so fierce that I came back empty-handed. My purpose in my life is to paint pictures, as many as I can, as well as I am able. Then dying, I shall look back with love and a gentle sorrow and say, oh, the pictures I might have painted. It hasn't been so good this week, as I ran out of money too soon. For 4 days, I've only had 23 cups of coffee and some bread I haven't paid for. I'm not blaming you. If it's anyone's fault, it's mine. But please, will you send me 10 of the biggest tubes of chrome yellow and 5 or even 10 meters of canvas? And again, ask Gauguin to come soon. I badly need the company of another painter. It's solitary here. If on those 10 meters of canvas I only paint half-meter masterpieces and sell them at exaggerated prices for cash to the notable collectors, the result will be a small fortune. There are times these days when nature is so exquisite that a terrible clarity overcomes me. I lose all sense of myself, and the picture appears in a dream. So often I'm struck down by people here behaving with such hostility around me that all my courage goes. It's agony of mind that breaks a man, for us at least, the happy owners of unhappy hearts. I want no flattery. People needn't say they like my work if they don't. But give me an intelligent honesty that ignores failures, which says, when I fail the 6th time, when even my strength falters, now try again. In this batch, you'll find 32 studies, many of which I don't like. For example, there's a sketch of me in the sun, laden with all my gear on the road to Tarascon. Good God, how does the old chap do it? God, or whatever you call him. How does he manage it? Why can't we do it too? God, how perfect. And in a moment, it won't be there. Dear Theo, from one day to the next, I'm hoping that Gauguin comes. I think of nothing else. I've specially decorated the room I'm giving him with lots of pictures of sunflowers, because he is the great master. So let him join me.
Bonjour, alors, je viens pour ramasser de l'herbe pour mes lapins. Oui. Fait une bonne journée aujourd'hui. Voilà. Ma foi. On est très content de venir ici au Maspercy. Avec mon mari, j'ai beaucoup à travailler ici. Et on vivait très bien, on était là, voilà, on allait à Uzès, on passait par ce chemin. Alors on
Please
prenait
don't
le
think I
cheval,
consider myself
la
perfect.
voiture, et on passait
If people
par là,
find me
on allait
difficult,
descendre
it
vers
really
Bretagne.
is my fault.
La route qui passe à
Often
Zetterling,
I'm
et
very
on
gloomy
démarrait
and
le
cross,
samedi,
and
on
even
allait
when
vers le
sympathy
marché,
does come my way, I
provisions,
reject
du
it,
pain,
not wanting any
travail
company,
pour la
finding
maison.
it painful, being nervous.
Toutes les semaines, c'était pareil. On avait des
It
poules,
actually
parce qu'on
is
était beaucoup de
painful for me
chevaliers
to
au
talk,
marché.
and I don't mind that. I'm
Des
not trying
œufs,
to
des
impress
canards.
anyone.
On avait des chèvres.
All I know
Des
is
chèvres,
I must work
sur une
and work
montée.
to my
On avait
limits,
des fromages
to
tout
forget
romains.
myself in what I do,
Oui,
and not be
c'était pas mal.
destroyed by it.
J'aimais beaucoup cette vie-là, plus que maintenant. Parce que maintenant, les gens, ils se croisent, et ils sont là, ils sont... Et à ce moment, les gens étaient plus populaires que maintenant. Alors du moment que vous ne m'écoutez pas, je m'en vais. Voilà, non. Or, c'est pas la peine que je parle. Du moment que vous ne faites pas attention à moi. Voilà, au revoir. Je m'en vais. Voilà, au revoir.
Why should I try to excuse the fact that my pictures, even when they express thanks in the simple sunflower, are still a cry of agony? Other artists don't apologize.
I know that you should expend yourself as a tree gives off fruit. That's what we're here for. The arts and the sciences are the sole things that I've lived through the centuries, and if I can make a contribution in any way, shape, form, or manner in the arts or the sciences, I will. Whether I will do it, I don't know. But at least I'm making an effort to, and I feel that's why I'm here. And as I say, you should expend yourself. You should use yourself up completely. Today, because of my nature and what I am, I have reached a point where I actually don't suffer to that extent anymore. We might say suffering if we may use the word. But you do suffer to the extent that everything that I do now, of course, I don't like because I want to go further.
Absent! Two cognac.
Nothing anyone says makes any difference to him. He needs a family, regular meals, a good home, a wife to look after him, to stop him working so hard. He can't look after himself. He's helpless. He's a child.
I'm so lucky to have found my work, aren't I? It's the only time I'm alive. Absent! Courage. Whatever happens, I've got to keep it. This fever of work, this rage inside will see me through. And if not, I'm no loss to anyone. It doesn't matter. But I'd rather bear fruit than wither away. Sure. When Gauguin comes, I'll make him welcome. If he doesn't come, well, that's his problem. Two live cheaper than one. He'd love this country. Whether he comes or not, he'll always be a friend. And if he doesn't come this time, he'll come later. Of course, I've spent a lot on the furniture. But even if I knew Gauguin wasn't coming, I'd be glad of the 2 beds for someone else. So I'm not pressing him. There are always people who want to see the South. But now's a good moment to ask him straight. Do you want to come or don't you? What I want is to impress him with my work. Oh, that's vain, I'm ashamed of it. But I want to work, and work quite alone, until he comes. If he comes. If he comes, he'll be here. If not, he'll be somewhere else.
Whenever you spend money, Vincent, make a point of noting it down. Rent. Paint. Food. And tell your brother we need more. 2 do not live cheaper than 1. Really, Vincent, I can't think how you manage without me.
I don't yet know what Gauguin thinks of my sunflowers in his room.
You might at least clean your brushes before going to bed.
I order my dinner or a cup of coffee. But otherwise, whole days go by without my saying a word to a soul. And that's the way it's been from the start. You told me that when sailors have to use all their strength and shift a tremendous weight, they all sing together. Now, why can't artists do that?
The day after our friends started painting at night, the whole of Arles was laughing about it. Now they knew he was mad. Between 2 such men, him and me, one always erupting, the other inwardly raging, there is bound to be conflict. The struggle is inevitable.
Mes enfants, s'il vous plaît. Allez! Allez-vous-en! Allez!
Allez, monsieur, vous m'ennuyez. Allez, partez. Allez, monsieur, vous m'agacez. Allez, partez de là. Allez, monsieur. Allez. Allez, partez. Vous m'ennuyez.
Dear Theo, I fear Gauguin is a bit tired of the good town of Arles, and especially of me.
Dear Mr. Van Gogh, if I had the money, I would leave this place. Vincent and I simply can't live together in peace.
You like Daudet?
Of course I like him.
You detest Ingres,
No, I don't. You just say I do.
and you do. And you also loathe Raphael,
But in some ways I like Raphael.
and love Dauvigny.
Oh, yes, I love him.
You hate Degas, though.
No, I admire him, but...
But it's really Theodore Rousseau you love.
Yes, but it's really nature I love. I can't stand all this artistic gossip. I love painting. It's the cornfields that talk me into working. The orchards last spring. The vineyards in the autumn. Yellows, pinks, whites, reds and greens. I love them. Color speaks. Color alone says something. That's what I mean by painting.
Ah,
You say that all the best pictures are done from memory, but I tell you, some of the finest and strongest imaginations have painted straight from nature in a way that would break your heart.
Brigadier, you're right.
I'm not saying that I'm any good. I'll never be important, but I can be less bad. All the rest, getting on with people, doesn't matter. It's not my fault. I've no gift for it.
You're right, Brigadier.
That evening, I had a light supper and felt a need to go out alone for a breath of air. We'd been arguing, as usual. It was clear to me that Vincent was only producing monotonous harmonies in his work. The trumpets were missing. I took on the job of putting him right, which I found easy enough. He was such fertile ground. I could have taught him to paint. Suddenly, I heard behind me a rapid, abrupt step. I recognized it at once.
sometimes one feels a bit mad because you're not quite sure that your ideas are possible or even feasible. I think my forms are drawn from the brutal side of man and animal, and there is not much love there. I think that I would always go on working, whether I was acclaimed as a success or not. I think that if I didn't sell, I would always go on working too, because I really love working. I do feel very strongly that an artist's life is a very solitary one on the whole. You work yourself, you're your own employer. You work when you like, and it's up to you. I think that some artists find that they cannot cope with family life and all the problems that exist with that. But I think on the whole that if you wish to be entirely self-centered and selfish, producing things that you want to do, well then you can be completely solitary. Now you choose this. To be a solitary, you choose.
According to the newspaper, this painter of Dutch origin appeared at the brothel, asked for a certain Rachel, and presented her with his ear.
Oh, I don't really ever suffer deeply. I'm not that type. No, I mean, I'm not going to cut my ear off. I'm very careful about my comforts and peace of mind and try and arrange things to suit me for that. I am the way I am. I don't give myself enough to painting to go further, quicker. What I'd really like to give is the deep pleasure that I feel from a landscape, of nature, which amounts to a feeling of peace, a feeling of equilibrium, of balance. And if I could communicate it to other people, it would be marvelous. And I suppose that's really what I'm trying to do, in a way.
We all said he had cut off his ear. He hadn't. It was only the lobe. But he lost plenty of blood.
I'm talking to you sanely, not as a lunatic, but as the brother you know. A number of people have sent a petition to the mayor saying I am a man not fit to be free. The police commissioner then gave instructions to shut me up. I want to sign on for 5 years with the Foreign Legion. to help others, but for my own good. I've been out of tune all my life. I can't think clearly enough to keep the balance in my mind. If I've got rules to follow, as I have in a hospital, then I'm at peace. You told me there were 50,000 epileptics in France, and only 4,000 of them shut away. So I'm not that odd, am I? Listen, I practice a trade, which I can never know well enough to express myself as I want. What's to be done? Certain people exist who love nature. Sick and mad as they are, they're called painters. Certain people exist who care for what other men make with their hands. Such people sometimes go to the extreme of buying paintings, even liking them. It's not impossible. All's for the best, in the best of all possible work. But if I can't work without being looked after, I don't think it's worth paying to be in an institution. Do you? I'd work better in a barracks. You see, I'm quite serious about the Foreign Legion.
There's nothing much wrong with him. In my opinion, it's quite clear that he is undernourished, and he drinks. All in all, in my view, he can only be described as mad if his fear of madness leads to further attacks. It's a simple case. If he eats and stays indoors and stops working, he'll be all right.
Now I gather he's been taken to the asylum at Saint-Remy, as a voluntary patient, of course.
I have done no harm to anyone. If the police had stopped the children, even the adults, from treating me as an animal, I would have kept my self-control. Others say that in their attacks, odd sounds, odd voices come to them too. And I'm glad to know that. It takes away the horror. Otherwise it scares me. Now I know it belongs to the disease. I accept it, like anything else. Do you know that however much they scream and rage, there's genuine friendship among the inmates here? They say, we are patient with others, for others to be patient with us. There's a religious note in these attacks. Perhaps because I've been confined in these old cloisters for so long, both in Arles and here. I must get out of this. The streets would be better. Yet even at the height of suffering, that religious presence consoles me. The principle that work is a duty returns very strongly to me now, and I'm convinced that my powers will soon be back. I cannot describe how this place is beginning to pull me down. I've accepted it all quietly for over a year. I must have air. I feel defeated by boredom, by grief. Dear brother, I wonder if I could ask you to drop a note to the doctor to say that I may possibly not recover at all unless allowed to work. Whole days pass when I have nothing to do, and I cannot bear it, since I can't even go to the room they put aside for me to paint in. It happened in the fields, my boy, this latest attack of mine, when I was painting in windy weather, and even so I finished the picture. I'll send it to you. And now I've just started work again on this field of corn I see from the window, with hills in the background. I think we've had enough of this place. I can't cope with the two responsibilities. First of all, working, and also taking all this trouble to get to know the patients living with me. It's too disturbing. I keep trying to summon the energy to join them, but it'll soon be 2 months since I was in the open air. Now they're letting me out with a guardian. But what's wrong with me? They all say different things. Nerves, epilepsy, hereditary madness, alcohol, acute mania with generalized delirium, overwork, venereal disease. Or it might be turpentine poisoning. It might even be the sun. But I seem to be painting well enough. Of course, you can't deny that plenty of painters do go mad. The life makes you, to put it mildly, absent-minded. If I can get properly back to work again, all well and good. I shall always be off my head. I thought you were the police. A few months later, in July 1890, Vincent committed suicide near Paris by shooting himself in the stomach. At the asylum, the doctor's son and a friend found some paintings Vincent had left behind and wondered what purpose they could possibly serve. Vincent had sold one painting in his lifetime. Now, 80 years later, there are few people in the West who are not influenced in their way of looking at the world around them by the way Van Gogh saw it. That is why, whenever we can, we celebrate him.
Allez, monsieur Roussac. C'est dommage que vous soyez mariés, hein. Non,